This is Richard back at you guys. Monday morning right after Christmas, got the old belly thing going and still got New Year's to go. I'm kind of worried. You worried, Cody?
A little bit.
A little bit. But guys, I did a little bit of trading and stuff like that to get us a power glide in the house that we might be able to do some racing with and stuff. Just really not sure what we're going to do with it, but I wanted to help a friend out on building him a 480E for his turbo car. So we got that accomplished, did a little trading, got us a power glide reed style case, billet roller bearing tail housing, trans brake, and all that cool stuff. But before I put it in the car, even though they say it's fresh, I want to look at it and kind of see what we got for our money's worth on our deal. Deal, right? Okay. But anyway, let's get this thing apart and see what we got. Now we do have an aftermarket tail housing. It's got a roller bearing in the back of it instead of a bushing. That's a big plus. Actually, this housing here looks a little bit better than the one that's on the Dirty Bird, so we might do some swapping. Now you can get down in here, and if you look, you can see that there's a roller bearing there instead of a bushing. Now, anytime you get a yoke for a bushing style, normally it will not go in here. It'll be tight. You might have to have 1,000 machined off of it or something like that. But they do make a bushing or a yoke that does fit the roller bearing only. So pretty nice, really thick, heavy piece here. So probably gonna have to put that on the Dirty Bird. Okay, we got our trans brake solenoid here. Now when you push the trans brake button in, this here will go in like that and it'll stay. You let go of the trans brake button, bang, that pops off. Now this is a spring loaded style, so it's like a quick release style. Some of them, they'll actually stay in, they'll just stay in and the fluid pressure pushes it off even though you let go of the trans brake, so it makes it just a little bit slower. Now this is an a standard tail housing support right here, case support if you want to call it. I got all the bolts out of there. Fits pretty tight. Normally these will just pop right out. We actually bought probably 8 or 9 of these cores the last time the core guy come in, so we'd have a bunch of pieces laying around. There we go. You can see there's some grease on here. Doesn't look like a new bushing. Now we like to put the case bushing in the housing here too because it's a lot wider. So we'll definitely put a wide bushing in there. Get had to come all the way around. Got my snap ring pliers, but I'm just going to grab this gasket right here. Yeah, it's not going to come off. We'll have to get it in the parts washer and let it heat soak really good and get that gasket off. I don't want to tear it off and just leave little shreds on there and then get in there with a razor blade or a scraper and try to get it out and scar it up. Then we have our valve here with the spring in it. That's on here like that. You push the button, it pushes the valve. What I want to do is kind of look at my band adjustment here real quick. I'm going to hold the jam nut and I'm going to screw the stud, strut, what you want to call it, in and see what it was set at. It was set way too tight. These things set about 3.5 to 4 turns, and you didn't see me go around that many times, so the band was set really, really tight. We have our servo over here. It does have a billet cover on it. Even though it's a billet cover, I like to take and put a bigger washer on here. That way to give it some more support around that corners here. Even on the stock ones that don't have a billet cover, we always put a bigger washer on here. That way it covers more of the edge. It keeps it from breaking. Because I've seen them blow those covers plumb out of the hole right there. I mean, it'll bust it all the way around on all three of them right here. And we have a gasket here that goes on the outer part, and then we have an O-ring right here too. Get that O-ring. These old gloves are so slippery. And then we have a dual ring servo here. Now this is what applies the band. Most of them have a steel cover or then just one seal instead of two. If this thing ever creeps backwards, if you got your trans brake on and you put it down on the stall and you start bumping in and it backs up, that means because your band is slipping and letting it go backwards because your reverse clutch is on. So anytime you push the trans brake button, you're actually bringing the clutch on in the back of the case right here, and it bumps in, bang, bang, like that, pretty simple. So if you ever get one that creeps forward on the trans brake, then your clutch in the back's bad. If it's vice versa, if it creeps backwards, then the band needs adjustment or the band's bad. So. We have a vent here, like a little 7/16 plug, but it's got a vent in the end of it. We usually like to take these and run them to a canister. That way, if it ever pumps any fluid out the vent or anything, it'll put it right back in the tranny. We run a canister up on the frame, so if it bleeds up here to the canister, it runs right back into the dipstick tube hole. It can never go low. They make canisters that go down here in the front. But when it leaks into the canister and fills the canister up, that means the tranny's that much lower on fluid. And that ain't something that you want in a race car, you know, high horsepower race car, and you're trying to bump in and stuff like that. So and these here, you have to check all the time to see if you're losing fluid and stuff like that. Where here, it's just going to put it back in there. If you're not on the ground, you're not leaking. So pretty simple. That's how the Dirty Bird's set up. So, of course, we have some type of billet output shaft here. You can tell by the color, the gray looking color of it instead of a black steel looking. Now this case has got some type of primer all over it, like it's been painted. Cody brought me some aircraft ultra paint remover we're gonna put on it. Same stuff we used on the Dirty Bird to get the paint off it. Works really well. But I don't like that primer look all over the case. It looks terrible. I'm going to flip it back over so you can kind of see. We actually took some of it off already with the stripper. You can see here we started removing it. Comes right off, but it looks terrible with that gray color. Especially when you can clean it up and make it look pretty aluminum again. It'll look really nice when we get it done. Get that old nasty primer off there. Keep my fingers crossed. Don't see a ton of metal. Well, that's a good sign, but you know, somebody's been in it freshening it up. Somebody's freshening it up ain't as good as some other body's freshening up. So, I mean, the pan looks good, like they just cleaned it out and stuff. So we'll see what we got inside. Of course, we have a screen style filter. Looks in pretty good shape still. A lot of times they'll pull out from under here, right here. Where they've been creased and stuff. If they do, you have to replace them. But still looks pretty good. And then we have our BTE trans brake valve body. Looks really nice. See here, BTE. These guys really make some nice product too. So we've used a bunch of their trans brakes and stuff for customers and stuff like that. You have your parking pawl spring right here and bolt, and little tab here. It goes to a little wheel, goes on your detent. It pulls up on it. Now this piece right here is your manual valve and linkage. This is what keeps it from jumping out of your manual valve. It has to run that little groove like that. So if you take that off, you can push it over enough usually to where this will pop out. There it goes. Okay. Once that happens, you're in trouble. But this is your detent right here. For your park, reverse, neutral, drive, stuff like that. And your manual valve. Our valve body here. I'll take it apart and see what our gaskets look like. I should have some new ones somewhere because I ordered a bunch of them. So you always want to be careful, because if they don't come apart, like this ain't coming apart, you got to be really careful. Because see, I tore that gasket just by doing that. See right there how I tore that? So, and that's not something you want to do. But since I already did it, let's see if I can get this one off without destroying it. Yeah, there's that one there. Now they are two different gaskets. This one has a long boot in it and this one doesn't. And they are not the same as the Powerglide factory gasket. They're totally different. You have to get to BTE and get their gaskets from them. So it's sad that I tore that one, but I believe I got some bags of them somewhere. I just got to find them. Things are everywhere. Okay, we have our park linkage down here still. Locks into the part. Got a weird little spring on the bottom. A lot of times, I don't know why they got these washers stacked under there. That's kind of different. Never seen that before. Huh. They had them there, but not here. I understand why they did that. But these things, too, if you don't slide them up right and get this pin out of a bind, they'll bind up and not have park after you get them together. So you always want to make sure that pin's all the way forward when you bolt this on. And you got this spring here. I mean, this parking pawl feels really wore out. Look at that. I'll have to go see if I can't find another one to put in here. Your factory parking pawl should be the same. And then we have our band adjustment stud here. Get this out of here. Come on. Goes like that. This locks into both sides of your band. This piece gets on your servo like this. And then pushes on your band. Pretty simple. Get the band out of here real quick. See what it looks like. Got a pretty green pump. Now we do have an aftermarket billet style input shaft. I'm not sure if it's 300M, Vasco or what. It does have rings on it. Now We like to use the non-ring style for really high horsepower stuff, but this shaft steel here should hold over 1200 horsepower. So a really nice shaft steel. And we have a Powerglide pump body that's had a 400 style stator pressed in it. It's a solid steel type where you can't strip it. Like I said, mainly as long as the case is good and maybe a pump and a planetary assembly, we're really rocking if it's all good. Even though you just never know. You know, I can't afford to put it in a car without knowing what's inside, so. Okay, the pump's totally wiped out. You can see it right here. It's got a groove in it, really big groove. That's sad because it's got a 400 style stator pressed in it, bushing style removed. So that's pretty sad to see that. I was hoping that was going to be good. And we have our pump. Of course, the pump's no good. So that's a F- so far. So let's get in here and see what we got here. We can look at our band. Of course, the band's totally fried. There's nothing left of it. So that's no good. Let's get in here and see what type of clutches we have. See if that part's any good. Of course, we got a steel billet style lightweight hub. Of course, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 high gear clutches, which that'll work for something about 800 horsepower, so not really high horsepower material. So, of course, the bushings were out in the drum. Drum can be used still. But let's look at our planetary. That's what I'm worried about. Wow. I cannot believe that looks brand new. Well, I mean, that planet, that sun gear looks brand new. I mean, there ain't a mark on that thing. That looks nice. Get in here and look at our shell, sun gear shell. Looks really pretty good shape too. I think the clearance was probably really loose on this thing. I mean, the planet looks brand new. We're really excited about that. So, I'm not sure if it's a 180 tooth planet. I'm going to have to do some counting and figuring and stuff and look it up and see what we got on the gear ratio of the planetary. Let's see whose it is. It's got a name on it. No, it don't have a name. 3 of 09. That's how old the planet is. But man, I'm telling you what, this thing wasn't ever used. Wow. Oh, it looks brand new. So that's a plus. Of course, we're going to get our lower clutches out of the case and see what they look like. Got some nice looking lower clutches. Got 6 of them in there. And you don't have no extra steels or anything. I'd have to mic the clutch and see if I can get any thinner clutches and get one more clutch in there, because normally we can get 7 in here. Or it's got a low cut piston, so actually you got to really look at this stuff, because even though you stick a steel down in here like this, the piston is setting really low below where the steel is going to set on this land right here. This piston is 100 something thousandths below that. So when you stick that steel in there, it's going to set on that land. It ain't even going to set on the piston. Look at that. See right there? It ain't even setting on the piston. It's like 1/8 of an inch away. That's how far that's down in there. What they got is they got a cut piston. Somebody machined this piston down really far, because that's really farther than I've ever seen them done. Normally the piston will be level here. That way it's right up against the steel at the same time. So we got a problem there. What we're going to do is take that piston out, put another piston in there and get the height back up to where it needs to be. And then we'll try to get at least 7 down in the bottom down in here. So, well, you know, not too bad, I guess. You know, we can put a pump in it and high gear drum and get me some good valve body gaskets, and it'll be a really good tranny for somebody. But guys, don't forget to subscribe. We appreciate you again, Cody. Trent, you working?
I'm working.
Trent's working too, guys. So y'all don't forget to subscribe again, and y'all have a great day and a happy new year coming.